Sorry about that, Peter.
Oh, it's okay. Let me try to, maybe I can do it. Hmm. My computer is running like a snail.
Same thing. Mine is doing the same thing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about we just talk in general? We can just talk and give everyone an overview if the technical issues are not working.
Oh, uh-oh. Oh, mine did the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk to you.
Okay.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, okay. I guess I'll just get things going here. Why is this? All right. So the first thing I guess we were gonna mention are the costs to consider as an international student. It's not just tuition. I know when I'm on the road, people say they always ask about the tuition. What's the tuition? What's the tuition? Well, there's many other things, not just the tuition. So a few costs to consider: the application fee, for one. Many universities have an application fee. Many of them can waive it. It all depends. Leah, do you guys waive application fees?
It's not typically common to waive an application fee, but there may be some exceptions. So I know some Canadian universities did make an exception and they had early promos. So that may be something to look out for if you're looking to study abroad. I always recommend signing up for the universities. They all have platforms, so they might send out emails to let you know if they're having any application fee waiver promos.
Yep, good advice. Also keep in mind that it's Leah and I who review your applications. So be nice to us because we can also waive application fees. Uh, there's also test and entrance exams, right? Like you need to show proof of English proficiency. Those cost money, right? An IELTS test or a Duolingo test or whatever it may be, or SATs. Of course, there are tuition and fees. Fees is another thing. Unfortunately, all universities have fees, but by paying those fees, that's how you have all the cool stuff at the library, and that's how you have the student rec center. All the activities you get to do, all that stuff, that comes out of your fees. Room and board. Students at my university, they need to live on campus the first 2 years. So you need to plan ahead here on doing paying for that. Books and supplies. Books cost money. Travel to a new host country. You got to get here. I'm not coming across the ocean to pick you up. You're going to have to come over here. Okay. Travel within the host country. Health and medical insurance in the United States. You have to pay for the health insurance every year, and then personal expenses. That's something I always stress, that the cost of living in cities is very different. Where Leah lives, it's different than where I live. The cost is going to be different. In a bigger city, it's going to cost more to pay for things. In a smaller place, it will generally be a little bit less. Leah, anything you want to add to cost to consider?
No, but I do want to highlight for Canada. So Canada does
Yeah.
have like a general minimum cost that you have to show when you're applying for immigration. So right now our minimum is 20,000 Canadian dollars. That being said, Canada has 10 different provinces and 3 different territories. So the cost of living will vary within all the different provinces. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at Canada.
Yeah, and I'll echo that too with the United States. Smaller Midwest schools are going to be cheaper than somewhere in Los Angeles or New York City or on the coasts, right? So just like Canada has 10 different provinces, we have 50 different states, and they all have different price ranges and everything like that. So
So I
just quick thing about the price. I mean, most of the price is going to come out of your tuition. That's true, but accommodations, meal plans, health insurance, and other that all equals about the same as the tuition. Okay, so just remember what I advise students all the time, and hopefully Leo will back me up here. Um, I had a student already ask me about tuition and scholarships, but I like to phrase it as the total cost of attendance for 1 year. Because not only do you have to show a bank statement to get an I-20 and do your immigration stuff that shows you can afford the total cost of attendance, but a total cost of attendance is just that. It's everything. So it's a better estimate than just the tuition. Like the tuition, yeah, okay, $12,000, but you still got to pay for all that other stuff, right? So think of it in terms of the total cost, because like I said, there's a lot of other things you're going to have to pay for. Moving on. Funding sources. Leah, did you want to talk about maybe some Canadian sources, or what can students do there?
Absolutely. So when it comes to Canada, things do work a bit different, like maybe our US counterparts or our European counterparts. It's very hard to find a full ride scholarship in Canada. I can only think of one university in Canada right now that does offer a full ride scholarship, University of Toronto. You may be able to get lucky and see a couple of other universities that may have that, but it's often very rare. But many of our universities offer some form of funding. So you will find like partial scholarships, you will find partial awards. Typically, those tend to have a very early deadline. So if you're in your final year, one thing I would caution is don't wait until the very last minute when you're graduating to apply for those scholarships because they tend to have a very early deadline. So in your final year, you'll find the scholarship deadlines are around December, January. That's when you'll often see the deadlines. Many of them will require an application, a recommendation letter, as well as maybe other supporting documents.
Nice. Yeah, ours is kind of similar. I mean, like at my school, we're looking at your merit, your high school GPAs. That's really the big scholarship that we can give. So there's no application for that or anything like that. Whenever you submit your transcripts, your merit scholarship comes out of that when I review it to figure out your GPA. So yes, scholarships are all different though for all universities. Like in America's universities as well, it's hard to find a full scholarship, a full ride. I mean that's not so common. But merit scholarships, most universities have that, right? There's also needs-based scholarships, but we'll talk about that here in just a minute. So other funding sources, students look for private loans, family contributions, some personal income, although that's rare because students are students, not workers, right? They don't have much money. I didn't have any money as a student. There's work study and student jobs. I don't know about Canada. I know like for us, international students can work about 20 hours a week while school is in session. During the breaks, they can work more. Leah, how is it in Canada?
Very similar. So in Canada, you're allowed to work up to 24 hours during the school period. On campus, there's no set limit. Of course, we want you to be reasonable. And then during the breaks, you can work full time.
Great. Yeah. So also internships are always a thing. Most students will have to do an internship as part of their program. Undergraduate research assistantships, departmental or organizational grants. So things like a merit award that comes out of my transcript review. Needs-based is something that you would need to apply for, and again, we'll talk about that in a minute. But departmental grants, you got to reach out to the departments. So if you're a computer science student, for example, reach out to the computer science department and simply ask. Right. And on that note, I want to reiterate that it's Leah and I, like part of our job is connecting you with these people. Right. So, you're a computer science student, you want to talk to the department chair. Well, I can get you that contact, and you can take that and run with it. Leah, anything to add?
I do want to highlight something. So in Canada, we have something called co-op, short for cooperative education. A lot of students ask about this as a potential funding source because it does allow you to work full time in the industry. You do make a substantial amount of money. I don't think it's enough to cover a whole year's worth of tuition and expenses, but a lot of students sometimes do use co-op in like their third or fourth year to cover a significant portion. So that's something that a lot of students consider when they are applying to Canada.
Great. Scholarships and grants. You can start applying for these as early as a freshman. And these are like and actually the other day Leah and I met to talk about this, and she has heard of these websites. I don't know much about them, but scholarships.com, that's the one you used, correct?
Yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
scholarships.com. There's also Scholarships Canada as well.
Yep.
I always caution students though, always do your research because sometimes the information you see on these websites, it could be legitimate, it could be fraudulent. So if you have any questions, it's always great to go back to the school and say, "Hey, I saw the scholarship information on this website. I just wanted to confirm it was like true, legitimate, and everything before I proceed."
Yep. And on the US side of things, come ask me, just like Leah said. But in addition, Education USA is also a good resource. All just about all every country in the world has an Education USA group, and reach out to them, and you can ask them, "Hey, what's the scoop on this scholarship? Is this legitimate or not?" Um, but yeah, she's right. There's a lot of fraud out there, so don't do your homework on those. Okay, needs-based scholarships. There's a couple things that are important to know in this. You're going to need to apply for needs-based scholarships. So there is an application process. You'll need to show, it's likely you'll need to show financial documents. These are the same financial documents you would need to show for an I-20 in order to get a student visa. So you'll have to show proven financial need, some standout elements on your application. It's why should we choose you, right? We only have X amount of needs-based, so why you, right? And the student then will follow the requirements, and once we review, so many, then we'll select who receives the needs-based. How does it work in Canada?
So one thing you'll often notice in Canada, it's typically very hard to get a need-based scholarship in your first year, mostly because we know immigration wants to see that you can cover the entire cost of tuition and living expenses in your first year. So oftentimes, like you might see it after your second year that you can apply for need-based funding. It's not as high though. So as a lot of times it's just to help you maybe offset the cost of like living expenses or personal expenses that may have come up unexpectedly. But again, it could vary with every institution. Some institutions may have a bit more capacity to offer more funding. Some institutions, it might be a bit limiting. And another thing is because we're allowed to work in Canada and it's a bit of a generous offering in terms of like the number of hours and how much you're making, you may not find a significant amount of need-based funding available to you. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're looking at Canada.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Another one I'll mention briefly is athletic scholarships. Most in the United States, well, like all Division One, so there are three divisions in American NCAA athletics: Division One, Two, and Three. So my school now, Kutztown, is a Division Two, and our coaches absolutely have athletic scholarships. So when they're recruiting a student, who was one just the other day, from Indonesia, they were recruiting a golf player from Indonesia, and she got a scholarship. So the coach coordinates with me. How much are they getting in merit? How much are they getting in need? So then they can come up with their scholarship package, and we put it all together, and that's what we offer the student. So Division One and Two can offer you athletic scholarships. It ranges all kinds of amounts. I don't know much about it, to be honest. It comes from the coaches. They just sort of inform me on how much they can do. Leah, does Canada have athletic scholarship?
We do, and similar to the US, it does come at the discretion of the coaches. The one big difference is our athletic scholarships are not as big. So even for our Canadian students, you'll notice that at most you're probably getting around $5,000. Canada is very big on an even playing field for all students. So when it comes to athletic scholarships, it won't be like full ride or big scholarships. It's mostly just to help recognize your talent, recognize the work you're putting in. But it's typically you'd probably get bigger scholarships from the academic side of things.
Yeah. I would say that's true too. For a school like ours, Division Two, you're going to get more from the academic scholarships than you are from the athletic. More institutional based aid. Just a couple of things to think about to save a couple bucks. And I try to, like I mentioned earlier about like standardized tests, like an SAT score. So my school is SAT optional, but the SAT can show proof of English proficiency. So if you were going to take an SAT and submit it anyway, you don't need to pay and take an IELTS also, that's just a whole other expense and time. And, you know, so think about that too. If you're not going to do the SAT, okay, no big deal. But why take 2 tests? That's just more money and more time. And if you're like me, you try to avoid tests at all costs. And then, yeah, Leah mentioned co-op also, and we touched on campus work. So yeah, I guess that's all I needed to say on that. Financial aid. So financial aid in the United States, like when we say financial aid, we're talking about domestic students. So if you have an American passport, you're a domestic student. Okay. So there are things called CSS profiles. My university doesn't use CSS profiles, so I really don't know a whole lot about it. But we do use FAFSA. I'm pretty sure almost all universities in the United States use FAFSA. And actually, my wife works in financial aid here, so she would be the one to help you, not me. But for what I would suggest, if you are a domestic student living abroad, is to reach out to me or whomever and say, hey, I'm interested in FAFSA. How do I get started? Right. And again, it's my role to connect you with these people that are going to help you in that process, which in this case, it's my wife in the financial aid office. But she's going to help you walk through that. And that's her job. And all of our universities have similar departments and connections and things like that. So what I'm trying to say is, don't be afraid to ask questions and to ask Leah or myself or whoever is sitting in our chair, hey, can you connect me with fill in the blank, right? Is that I don't know anything about FAFSA, but I know who does. And it's my job to connect you with that. So I do know you need to start a FAFSA profile, and you can go to fafsa.gov. I know you'll need to submit certain like tax records and things like that. There's due dates. You have to get your FAFSA in at the right time. I hear all kinds of stories on our car ride home about people who don't get their applications turned in time. So be sure to do things early, okay, no matter what it is. And I know, Leo, how does Canada do things like this for domestic students?
So within Canada, it's provincial. So every province has different systems that you would go through. So for example, in the province of Ontario, we have something called OSAP. So there are different requirements, especially for Canadians living abroad. One thing to note, there may be some certain requirements of like having lived in your province for a bit of time before you can apply for these funding options. So they may not work for your first year, but they may be working for your second and third year and upper years. So it's always good to keep those in mind. Similar to the US, we do have financial aid offices. So there's always someone who can kind of support you navigating this process. But it's always good to do your research and start early because, again, you don't want to miss the deadlines because those tend to be very firm deadlines.
Yep. And so before we wrap it up here, I'm hearing common themes. There are deadlines for these things. You guys should be considering this and applying for these things early, right? Especially for things like needs-based scholarships. There are only a few. We only have a few to give out. So get your applications in early. Another common theme I've heard is that Leah and I can connect you with the people on the campus, right? So don't be afraid to reach out. It's also a great way to start your network, right? Your network starts with me and with her, right? Because we're the ones doing this. So, don't be a stranger, reach out, ask your questions and get them answered. So with that, unless Leah, you have anything you want to add real quick, I was just going to open it up for Q&A. I'm not sure how much time we have, but we'll gladly answer any questions we have. I don't know if I'm looking in the right place. Oh, Shweta Singh is joining us again.
Yes. Hi.
You had 2 questions which you have already answered.
Correct.
Oh, great.
So we are good to go in terms of questions in the live chat. But
Okay.
students, if you still would like to connect with Peter or Leah, you definitely still have the chance. They are going to be in their respective university rooms, so you can stop by. You can also connect on audio and video with both of them. They will be very happy to help you with any questions that you all have.
Yeah.
So,
and Peter and Leah, if you do not mind, could you just quickly talk about the SAT and ACT?
Yeah, I was just about to.
Yeah,
I saw Arusha's question there. Yeah, so no, not are SAT and ACT scores mandatory for scholarships? No, not necessarily. At some universities, maybe they are, but at mine, they're not. So really, I'm more focused on your high school scores. Now, we do have an honors scholarship, which is a very high school GPA and at least a 1410 on your SAT. That can get you the highest scholarship, which is around 7,700 a year. But it's not necessary. You can still get scholarships and good scholarships. You can still get up to 6,000 just on your high school scores.
So one of the great things about Canada is we do not need SAT or ACT. Our very test optional for most universities and colleges in Canada. In fact, we prefer the language proficiency test over the SATs.
Nice. Hey, that's a great question. How do you connect with students studying in a particular major? That has nothing to do with our topic today, but that is a great question, and it all starts right there. This guy. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know, but you got to reach out to me or to Leah or to any of our colleagues and say, hey, could you put me in touch with a student who studies blank or a student from blank? I just connected 2 Czech students just the other day. So, yeah, sure. Oh, I still have a hard time spelling Kutztown. There you go. You're welcome.
All right, doesn't look like we have any more questions, but like they said, Peter and I will be in our respective booths. So if you have any follow-up questions, we're happy to chat more about both Canada and the US and what perspectives we have to share.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to head back to my booth then.
All right.
Wait, I have to wait for Shweta to do this.
No, so that sign has now changed, and I will tell you.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Thank you, both of you. Thank you so much for taking out the time to do this for